right? Yeah, if you come down in the summer, you're going to encounter a lot of South American visitors because it's their winter.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So you go downtown Miami, and historically there's Brazilian kids on school trips and what have you. Right. But I would say, man, any time is a good time. I've talked about it here on the show about having the Jeet Kune Do Winterfest.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right, having a seminar with multiple instructors and what have you, at some point where it's freezing cold in the rest of America, right? But here in Miami, we're freezing because it's like 66 degrees.
Yes.
Right? Because we put long sleeves on when it turned. Let me tell you, if I wake up in the morning and it's 72. That's time for a long sleeve shirt, boy.
And that's crazy because when we moved here from Tennessee, the day we drove to Florida from Tennessee with our U-Haul, it was snowing. The next day, I was swimming in the ocean. This was March 1st, 2020. And the Floridians were looking at us like we were insane.
Yeah.
But after 1 year, we're going on 3 years living here. After 1 year of living here, the water feels like an ice box because you get used to that,
Yeah, you definitely acclimate.
But I did swim in the ocean Halloween night. It was glorious. Yeah, went to Cocoa Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I lived on South Beach, even in the winter, I'd run. I'd do my like 7-mile run and what have you, and then I would jump in the water, and people were amazing. But the body's warmed up, so you actually don't feel it, And then I'd get out of the water, and on the sidewalk they have like a public shower, right? So you just go under that, and it's 40 degrees, right? And you do it, and it just freaks people out, right? So I have a funny feeling that we are messed up on the YouTube. Let me check something here for a second. Yeah, because one thing I realized is that there's a glitch between Be Live and Facebook. Oh, I gotta ask you, you had no problems connecting, did you?
No.
Now, so who's the technical one in your household? You?
Me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I taught myself in the 90s. I taught myself how to do code to build my first websites.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I did.
Now it's easy to build websites. The templates are already kind of,
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Do you use what do you use? Elementor or?
Right now, no. I'm actually using Wix. I have 4 sites with Wix, and they're great. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
I
have no problem. I know some people I've heard people talk crap about them, but I have no problems.
Yeah, I don't talk crap about them, but I tried them and I didn't find them that user friendly, But I think Chris Kent's site is built off Wix, right? Yeah. So So I at one point I was using what the hell was it called? Optimized Press. Right. And then but now I'm pretty happy with Elementor. Even the free version of Elementor is pretty robust, but if you upgrade to Pro, you get some good stuff. Yeah. So I had joked to some people that I was just going to turn the cameras on and shut up and let you talk.
I usually have a lot to say.
I know, right?
I try to listen more now that I'm getting older.
Right.
But sometimes when you listen to BS so much, you got to speak up.
Yeah. Well,
and I haven't got to that wise age yet where I can just not speak up and just stay silent. but I'm not sure if I ever want to get completely there anyway.
No,
But
I don't think so. Were you ever told in the early days that you want to stay out of the JKD politics? Did they ever say that
oh,
to you?
I have lost out on certificates because of that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to get sucked in
Yeah.
to the politics. And it's funny, through the years, I have different instructors that's on one side of the spectrum,
Mhm.
whatever spectrum in Jeet Kune Do we're talking
Right,
about.
right.
There's so
Yeah.
many people
Yeah,
bicker
yeah.
about, right? And then I have another instructor, some really named instructors that I don't just want to throw out right now, but they'll call or they'll message me to bitch and moan about him, and he'll message me to about him
Mhm.
because they know I'm kind of middle ground.
Right.
You know, I never wanted to become the only original or the only concept. I wanted to become fluid, man. I can,
Yeah.
you got to see the good and the benefit in everything.
Yeah.
And that's how I lived my whole martial art career. I believe even traditional martial arts, there's so much benefit there that us in the JKD world miss out on, some of us,
Right.
because we ignore that.
So give me 1 second. I gotta do something here.
Uh-huh.
Sorry about that. So you did mention that to me. So give me an example of what you're talking about. What is it? What is something? Because I just did a broadcast about what JKD people could learn from MMA. So what could JKD people learn
Yeah, I
from
saw that. Okay.
TMA?
Let's talk about what today we're missing. And I think the biggest thing that we're missing today is work ethic and discipline. And the traditional martial arts, a good traditional system instills that in you before you even learn technique.
Mhm.
And that was back in the day when my Taekwondo family, and when, I still consider myself part of that.
Right.
Because it's so much a part of me.
Right.
But we would take one technique, let's say a side kick, and literally 2.5 hours up and down the floor side kick.
Yeah.
You don't see that kind of training anymore.
Yeah, but but Matt Thornton, I think, talks about that. Like in their jujitsu class at SBG, the 3I method, the introduction, isolation, implementation, or whatever it is. But it's like one technique for the whole night.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the schools back then didn't keep students because people would get bored. People like me, though, loved that.
Mhm.
I went home and did 1,000 more side kicks after just doing it for 3 hours in class.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that discipline is lost today when the sport, don't get me wrong, the MMA world, those guys are athletes but it feels like they want stuff quick. And back in the day, nothing came quick.
Mhm.
And I even have people through the years go, hey, can I come train with you? I want you to give me a fight in 3 months. I'm like, you can come train with me, but I'm not going to put my name on you and then find you a fight through my connections and then get you a fight where, in 3 months.
Yeah.
You're going to train with me for 2 years minimum,
Mhm.
And they never do. So.
So what's the solution? What's the middle ground then between giving people what they want, which is speed, right? Because what do they know? They know they can go to the YouTube and find a video on whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I noticed a while ago that seems to be a trend, especially in the jiu-jitsu. It's like Stefan Kesting will put a video out, and you'll see in the comments, "I'm gonna do that in class tonight."
Well, the problem is like jiu-jitsu, kicking, all that requires a lot of time to get really solid at.
Mm-hmm.
I can take a student and make them a pretty good boxer within a year.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a little sooner than that. But you can't really do that with kicking or grappling or even solid hand trapping.
Right.
It takes so much time, and it's more. You got to be more articulate with that kind of training than you do with just throwing a jab and calling it a jab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What So what then? What do you do? How do you solve
You
that
gotta
dilemma?
find that middle ground.
Right.
First, when a student comes with me, they know right away that I don't want to say normal Jeet Kune Do because that's not. I, it's what I'm saying is a lot of the Jeet Kune Do world today they want us to feel like we're so simple and so relaxed and we wear street clothes and you don't have to say yes sir, you don't have to do all that. I'm not that guy because that discipline I love personally. And I say yes sir to my elders and my instructors and I kind of demand that too with my classes.
Well, yeah.
So that alone is the discipline portion.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard that Bruce Lee demanded that in class.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but we've gotten so lax with it because we also want people to know that we're just like a cool backyard barbecue family. Come train.
yeah, no.
When I was growing up, after we train,
Right.
we'll go get some beers.
Yeah.
So-
But you know what? I think there's a little bit of a danger in that, right? Because there's always going to be that weasel of a guy, right? Who presents himself as trustworthy. And when and then when he gets close to you, right? Then you find out what he's really made of.
Well, my instructor used to always tell me, he used to say, you want to be personable with your students,
but not personal.
And that's hard for us. It's hard for me because I love human beings.
Right.
I really do. And when I see a talented student that has the discipline and has the, I know they're going to be here for a while, I gravitate. You're not supposed to show favoritism, basically, is what I'm saying. But as instructors, sometimes we do.
Of course.
And later on, that may come back and bite us.
Yep.
And it's bit me.
I'm sure. Right. Now I gotta ask you something. When you say your instructor, let me see. Is it Ron Goen? Is it Hokum? Is it Brad Whitlow? Is it Scott McNeely? Is it Heel Cho? Is it Michael DePasquale?
I've met a lot of
When you say my instructor, who the heck are you talking about?
my main two influences is Grandmaster Brad Whitlow and Guru Ron Goen.
Okay.
I've spent more time with Grandmaster Brad Whitlow. Through the years, he's been a father figure, mentor, back to even being a student of mine, and he will admit that, through the years. And he's a Taekwondo grandmaster, but can do it all. He cross trains. I mean, he's 64 years old. He's still super solid and disciplined. But when I was training the Taekwondo world, I ran into Guru Ron Goen, and he changed my whole route completely.
I see.
So to speak.
I see.
But I still want it to be part of that world, and not necessarily in the world, but getting the benefits of being in that disciplined, structured format of that world, which I love.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't trade in my traditional training for anything because it definitely made me understand the arts that we do today a little better. And
what's the mistake then that that the younger folk are making when they come into Jeet Kune Do thinking that, let's say discipline wise, this is going to be an easier feat? What's the mistake that they're making?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. They come in sometimes, especially these teenagers, in their blue jeans and the blue jeans look like they haven't been washed in 3 years, and cut up T-shirts with, I don't know. We've had so many people come in. We had one person come in with a big devil worshiping T-shirt on. I mean, and I'm sure you've been a school owner for many years, but they think that it's just gonna be like I'm in the backyard with my buddies throwing kicks and punches.
Well,
when I walked into Heel Cho's school, the first thing that hit me was he has a big plaque on the wall and it says House of Discipline.
Wow.
And I absolutely love that because as soon as you walk in there, you're disciplined. you're going to have to do that, or you're not welcome. You know, it's almost like the you ever been to a Catholic church?
Uh-huh.
That discipline's there, whether you want it or not. You
Right.
walk in, you're going to follow by their rules. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't it dumb to think that Bruce Lee was not a disciplined person?
Oh, that gets me into a whole nother story. The funniest thing is, even above that, is for people to now think he wasn't disciplined in his training. Now he's such a super bigger than life icon that they think he just could always do it. That's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
And so they're not doing it, but they will talk about you doing it. Now they're not doing it, so they look like crap.
Right.
But they will point out other people, you know, who are at least doing it, whether they look good or not. They're out there doing it.
I remember.
You know?
I remember you talked about that on Facebook a while ago, and then I ended up branching off from what you had said, because you got to give props, as the cool kids say, to people who are at least putting stuff out there, because so many people hide behind the keyboard, and you can't find video of them doing anything. Right?
Even a picture. Show me a picture.
Yeah.
Show me a picture of you teaching.
Yeah.
But yet you're giving advice to teachers who are spending their days sharing this knowledge, thus getting better, because the fastest way to get better is through teaching.
I only show pictures of when I was skinny.
I have a lot of video of you back then.
Right? Yeah. Only when talking about back then, did you ever reach a point in JKD where you thought, I kind of know what I'm doing?
No, I still don't know.
Okay. Okay.
The reason why is because, man, you've been the same way, I'm sure. I'll watch a video that at the time sold hundreds of copies, and at the time people just commented on how great it was. And 10 years later, I'll watch it and go, I want to take that shit off the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's a level. If we don't continue to try to reach that level of precision, then everything is null. You shouldn't be doing it. You should always try to overcome. Now, this is the trick. As we get older, as our body starts to deteriorate through injuries or age, we have to adjust that precision level and find a different route to it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenging part.
You know, it's you tell me if it's fortunate or unfortunate. Take a look at the first grappling Enter into Trap into Grappling book. Nobody is focusing on trapping the lead leg.
Yeah.
All the trapping is upper body, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's trapping lower body.
I like how C-Lot kind of separates the upper arc with the lower arc. That really was kind of a light bulb with all of my training, because you have to do it all like the hands on a clock moving together in unison. It has to all work, but that doesn't mean it has to all go in the same direction or all go in the same, you know.
Yeah. So we have that book as a Jeet Kune Do guidebook, let's call it. Jeet Kune Do instructional, even so much. But dare I say, that's a glaring error, right?
Yeah.
So is that a drawback, or is that actually an example of the honesty that exists in JKD? That things that people gain more understanding the more time they spend in it?
Let me answer that question like this. Going back to traditional martial arts, we knew coming up in the rank that to become proficient, it was kind of just put into our minds, to become proficient, you have to put in the time. And I think somehow that's gotten lost in today's sport-focused martial arts training. You know, it's again, people want it fast. I will tell you know I don't care if I see an 8th degree black belt in the art that's kind of sloppy, but you look at his track record, and through that track record, he's put in 40 or 50 solid years of training, and you can see it. You can see it in the proof.
Right.
Then I will still say that's an 8th degree master black belt.
You
know what I mean?
You know what? You know what? Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a sloppy 8th degree black belt?
Oh, all the time. I
Really?
know many of them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, but let me tell you something. The guys that I do know that I would call maybe sloppy will punch a hole through a brick wall.
So what aspect of them are you calling sloppy?
Well, I'm talking from a technical point of view, because somebody I don't call them sloppy, but you see it on the YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You see him. I just watched one the other day, and this guy, he was, yes, he wasn't as crisp as the young guys are, and he wasn't, neither am I anymore.
Right.
I mean, I was a hell of a technician.
Right.
You know, and but you know that he could go. First off, you know that he could go if he needed to.
Yeah.
Some of the most dangerous people that I used to run with, man, from being in the violence world so long, weren't even really martial artists.
Right.
They understood violence.
Yeah.
So you gotta ask yourself, is it a tournament? Is it a tournament focused on technique and being a solid technician? Then yeah, you're probably not gonna do very well in that tournament. Is it a street brawl behind a 7-Eleven at 3 a.m.? You're the guy I want on my side.
Right.
You know, so, you know, but a lot of people criticize people that are still out there doing the work. They criticize them because in their perception, they don't look as sharp, or they're doing the wrong art, or they're something. And people will take that and boom.
Yeah.
You know?
How that 3 a.m. scrap behind 7-Eleven, how did you end up in that world?
Well, I opened up my first school when I was 18 years old. Actually, I was not even 18 yet. I was about 3 weeks away, and I lied about my age to sign the lease. Okay. Yeah, I know. So well, I just threw myself in a little school, and this was Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, and back then, rent was like $800 a month. Like today, that's my light bill. You know what I mean? You know, but back then it was super cheap, and I still couldn't pay the bill. So I said, well, I can fight. I thought. I was already a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I was kicking basketball rims, fastest guy on the block. I mean, I was lightning fast. I would hit people with spins on go. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I can do this. So I put an application at a club in New Orleans. And first week I saw like 3 people stabbed. Somebody ran over a glass, and it just totally shell shocked my life, because it made me see that I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Right. I
was playing martial arts up until then. I was, you know, playing super fighter up until then. You know what I mean?
So that galvanized you into what kind of action?
That put me into the working club doors every night for nearly, 2 decades. Some years every night, probably 6-7 days a week.
Really?
Yeah. So it's you see all kind of violence in that world. Even you see a lot of even non-physical violence in that world that you have to learn how to circumvent or to turn around. You know. But you see a lot of violence in the world, all kinds. You know, the last decade of it, I worked in a college town full of football players, college football players, MMA fighters, and lots of cocaine. So the last 10 years changed everything again from the first 10 years, because the last 10 years now I wasn't just dealing with older drunks at a club. Now you're dealing with possibly trained athletic people on stimulants, you know, so it changed again. Yeah.
I thought I had made a note of it, but I don't see it here. So the club work and the bodyguard stuff and what have you, right? Let me be silly for a second. Were there any clubs or any celebrities whose names, like even a guy like me, would recognize?
Oh, yeah. I worked for Brooks and Dunn. I worked for George Jones. George Jones sat in a rocking chair in front. I was on the side of him, and I was just keeping my hands like this, and he sat in a rocking chair and played an acoustic guitar. I didn't even shake that man's hand because at the time, I was listening to freaking Tupac. So to me, he was nobody.
Right.
Now I kick myself in the ass for not shaking that. I was touching. I had to put my hand on him a couple times to escort him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I've met a few of them, and it was a fun. But let me tell you something. That all that bodyguard work that I did, which was not a lot, but the bodyguard work that I did do, no action.
Ah, interesting.
None. Other than me looking at somebody, I got this ability where I can look at you and they just quit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, or verbal, I never had to hit someone at all, or control them or anything. Yeah.
But not. The club work was very different.
Yeah, the club work was very different because you're dealing with major numbers.
Yeah.
And there's going to always be some bad numbers.
Yeah.
So you think the night's going good, and in a minute, my instructor, Grandmaster Dwight Willow, he's gave, as you can see, I use his advice a lot through the years. But he told me one time, he said, I was probably 16 years old, and this has stuck with me for life. And even to this day, my adaptive combatives program, my mascot or logo is a chameleon. And the reason why is because he told me, he goes, in a fight, you have to change colors as the fight mutates and changes colors, like a chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
And that little bitty piece of advice that he just probably threw out there, not thinking of it, it really formed me, because when you're dealing with numbers, and you're having to do a job like that, your night could be going beautifully, but you have to know that in a microsecond, the whole direction of it can change. And it did many times.
You trained with Vunak, didn't you?
Everybody asks that. I've spent a lot of time. First off, he's a big part of me. First off,
right.
And you know what's funny? Me and him talk like every week now. Yeah. But I've never personally trained him.
Okay. See, because that chameleon thing, right? Being able to turn it on and turn it off. I know that's a major focus for Vunak.
Oh, major, big time. He really. I mean, I love that me and him are connected like we are now, mm-hmm. and he'll send me little voice messages on text, and mm-hmm. because I feel like he's like a father to me almost, because I grew up since the 96. I grew up just absorbing everything he did. And even back then I used to call him on his phone. And I never forget one time, I think I told this story, but my students, we were running straight blast and clinch and elbow. And I had some gonky helmets, and my students were cutting their elbow. You can see I got all kind of injuries on my elbows, but they were cutting their elbows open on the plastic. It was back then you didn't have good equipment, and we couldn't afford good equipment. So I call him up one day. This is probably 1998, 97. He remembers it. He told me he remembered it. And I said, "Hey, Sifu." And I had already talked to him like maybe twice. And I said, "I have a question." And I could tell he was busy. I think he was maybe teaching. Okay. And he's like, "Okay, bro, what's up?" He was kind of being quick with me. I said, "Well, quick question." I said, "My students keep cutting their arms and elbows open on the helmets." I said, "What helmet do you use?" I said, "They're bleeding a little bit in class." And he goes, bro. I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "A little blood's good for the soul." He goes, "Call me this weekend." and he hung up. So I told the students, I said, "Sorry. Yeah. Band-Aids." Yeah, but he was a big, without Vunak, my 20 years of being part of that violence would have been way more painful than what it was, because I discovered him right when I threw myself in that world. And I did. I threw it in because I thought I already knew it. Mm-hmm. That's the big problem with human beings, and especially Americans, it seems like. Every time, "Hey, come try martial arts. I'm a martial arts instructor." No, I already know how to fight. Right. Yeah. They haven't been in a fight since fourth grade. Right. But they know how to do it. I'm still a little bit confused though.
Grandmaster Whitlow let you open up a school before you were 18?
Oh, no. I opened up my own organization at 17 years old. Yeah. Yeah, I already had 3 other schools under me by the time I was 18. Yeah. Training my curriculum. Yeah. So I just kind of just threw myself into it all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really did.
Okay. I think wasn't Vunat teaching at a Kempo school at that age too?
Yeah. And we've all done, like, I started in a dance studio.
Right.
Yeah. So I rented a big room in a dance studio, and that for the first year, that was progressive martial art training systems.
Okay.
Back then I wasn't called that. Back then my first company was Martial Arts Unlimited.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then a few years later I switched to PMATs. Yeah.
So well, you answered the question about who's the tech person, and it's you. So then I assume that the names for all your different organizations and programs, those are yours also?
Yeah. This is what, and me and Vunok talk about this all the time, because he probably won't be upset me putting this out there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know, but he has insomnia like I do. We both don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll call him at 4 a.m. or he'll message, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Because we know we're up. And I always tell him, dude, if you're never not sleeping, chances are I'm awake too. Just
Okay.
So when normal people are asleep, I'm at the computer creating stuff. Always been like that.
Wow.
And in the daytime, I work out at night. I teach classes at night. I do my computer stuff at night. I mean, I'm really kind of a true night owl. Now, I'll get out and do a private class with someone in the daytime, but I've never had classes all through the day. Never, not one time in my career.
Wow.
I'd rather teach till 3 a.m. Yeah.
Wow. No, I'm wired different. I did 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for like 30 years. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
We have to talk about Mrs. Brown, because I'm trying to work out what her role is then. Because if
without her, I wouldn't eat. She is relentlessly on the phone selling videos, booking classes, booking private classes.
I got it.
All while keeping up. She's nearly manager position in her own job too. Yeah. So she's running my 2 businesses as well as her a full-time job.
Okay.
And she's a monster, man.
So,
and a hell of a martial artist.
Right. So y'all, I see it now. So y'all are well matched, even though you're not identical.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I couldn't do this without her. And
and that's the secret.
She's the backbone of it. And it's gotten to the point where through the years she's been working. We've been together for 11 years, and she's worked with my business that entire time. So what she's learned to do was, because there was a before we moved to Florida, to Paradise, there was a time period where I got burnt out. Not burnt out in teaching, burnt out with the business side.
Yeah.
Because you try to do everything right. You spend all this money on advertisements and all this, and it seems like sometimes nothing works. So I got so burnt out trying to do it all that she took it and she says, look, this is what we're going to do from now on. I point you where to go, who to see, who to teach, what to teach, and you just do that. I'll handle the rest.
Right.
So now she just tells me who I'm working with, who I'm teaching, what seminar I'm teaching, and she just tells me,
Yeah.
So
excellent.
Yeah.
Curriculum. You said you had 3 schools under your curriculum.
More people now.
Okay. So what's the overall structure behind your curriculum?
It depends on what they're teaching. It seems like with me, I don't know how this happened. I mean, I don't mind it, but it seems like most of these people that are wanting to teach or incorporate my curriculum at their schools, it always seems to be the Filipino martial arts. 9 out of 10 times.
Really?
And I don't mind it, but they just, because they feel like they already got the punching and kicking, whatever art they're doing, let's add in that other element.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
like I have a man under me in Belgium teaching Maga, which I think is the cool. I'll probably never be able to go to Belgium, but you know, I think that's the coolest. I mean, he's got my banners up, and I'm like, yeah, my Belgian location. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But yeah, it's the Filipino martial arts, and the online video sale. I use that as an outlet to do it, because when you order one of my video series, you get. I have 2 versions of each series. I have a version that whoever orders that I've never met, never probably talked to, they'll get it.
Okay.
But I also have the versions of people who are wanting the instructor series of that series.
Oh, I see. I see.
And in that, in between each block, you have notes and you have extra stuff that isn't in the public series.
Right.
Yeah. And then what they do is each block they videotape themselves doing the things that I want to see, and then they send me the video and I review it for a couple days, and that's how they become instructors. That's if they can't get in front of me. I like people to be able to come see me.
At
obviously,
some point, they have to,
but you know, people in Japan may not never be able to come here. You know, or I have a lot of people in Australia. You know, they may not never be able to come see me. I hope to go there one day, but yeah.
So that organized brain, where did that come from? How did you develop that?
It's funny. I've always kind of did it. My grandfather, the man who raised me, really was genius level technical individual.
Okay.
You know, he was in the famed 2nd Weapons Marine Division, World War II. He took every Pacific. He was with the boys that took every Pacific, every except maybe the last Pacific island, you know, attack. You know, I mean, his first job as a Marine was to retrieve bodies out of Hawaii, out of Pearl Harbor. Then they sit, you know, so he was just very. Then when he got out, he became I think it's genetic.
Okay.
But I'm also an extremely visual learner. It's to the point where my instructors get mad at me. They really do. I mean, they'll go, I hate that. Because they'll show me one time and the next day I'm doing it better than them.
Right.
And they're like, you know, because it just, I absorb it, you know? Ron Goen used to say, he made a comment one time. He says, how did he say that? I forgot how he said it, but he didn't call me a sponge. He called me I forgot what he used, but he says, you know, he goes, it's almost like you get the knowledge and you just keep it. You know, you don't, like some people, you get the knowledge, you got to get rid of it. And and the way I get rid of it is by teaching. And through the years, I've been called an over teacher because of that. Because I used to try to put like 8 hours of material in 2 hours of training.
Yeah.
You know, and I had this problem in my younger years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I try to slow down now, and but it's because I want to give it. I want to give it, so I can put more in.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've always been. So whatever I'm interested in, which isn't much.
Right.
Martial arts. I'm a longtime pool player. I played pool bush league for 7.5 years in New Orleans.
Okay.
Which I don't even get to play pool really, in once a month maybe. But for years, I looked at that as being martial arts training.
Hey,
whenever I'd go play pool.
I have a theory that pool is Kali.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all. I had a shirt one time that I made. It's all about the angle.
Right.
But yeah, I was using pool as a way to try to understand lines better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just got good at pool.
Right.
But that's it. My hobby. People go, "What's your hobby?" I mean, when I'm bored, man, I try to learn something new so I can do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I don't need a hobby because I've devoted my entire life to martial arts. So I don't need something else. I just need to see what else this can give me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk Facebook arguments for a second. What pisses you off about JKD people on Facebook?
So much, man. So much. You know, apart from the whole constant Dan and Asano bashing, which just infuriates me. And I used to spend so much time defending a man who obviously needs no defending from any of us.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So now I just try to overlook that, but it's just so funny that it's like the blind leading the blind with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're showing one side of it and they're trying to rewrite history because they want their side to be so true that they're trying to rewrite history to make it true.
You know that it to me, it is almost identical to the national politics of this country.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Where some people attempt to rewrite things and paint a picture of the past as being like this terrible experience, you know, and like there's nothing beneficial about the past and what have you. What the Jeet Kune Do purists, right? Here's my question, but you'll give the answer. Okay. So my question is this: do you think that Wing Chun, boxing, and fencing will give you everything you could ever need in self-defense?
Well, that's the problem with every single martial art and not just Jeet Kune Do. The problem is these people take their respective disciplines that they're doing, their respective martial art, and they try to force it to answer all of the combative questions that it was never designed or supposed to be asked in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Yeah. It upsets me back to Dan Asano. These people aren't mad that he is, they may think they are, but they think that he's blending Jeet Kune Do and all this. They're just upset that he doesn't only love Jeet Kune Do. That's it. That's what it's about. Yeah. It's not about blending. I remember the early seminars that I would go to, I would get in trouble because, talking about Paul Vunak, I was already doing the hard PFS curriculum back since like 96, 97. Mm-hmm. So when I would go to see Guru Dan or Sifu Dan, I would, let's say they were doing just a Pak Da, right? I would do the good team first. And I remember Eric Paulson in like 2001. He comes and he whispers in my ear and he goes, "Don't do that. Don't blend the two." And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm a kid. I'm 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old. And I'm like, well, why not? He goes, I never forget what he told me. He goes, because someone's always watching. And what he meant, I didn't know what the hell he meant back then, but now I know what he meant because he meant people are going to see me do that, then bash Dan Asano online because he's blending Jeet Kune Do with college.
Yep.
When that was not the case anytime I've ever trained with him. I've never seen him do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see,
the thing is you can do it. And it's beautiful when you do it. Well, but that doesn't make it Jeet Kune Do anymore, per se.
Let's say, let's imagine that there's a small passage in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, right, that says attacks to the limbs are called rim shots. Let's imagine, right? And it's actually true. I don't know if you've seen it, right? So in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's notes is a note that says attacks to the limbs.
But see, the purists, I don't know if we're using that term for that side of the boat anymore, but they will look at that and say, yeah, but Dan Asano took it from Filipino martial arts, not from Jeet Kune Do. So he muddied Jeet Kune Do up, or he watered Jeet Kune Do down by putting it in a structure. It's you get what I'm saying? Like why? I mean, you made a comment one time that people don't understand, and this was probably a year ago or more. You said Dan wasn't taught to structure that stuff like that. Dan's creative mind put that to structure like that.
Yeah.
And they built that curriculum. It ain't like Bruce Lee gave him that curriculum. Dan took what Bruce gave him and he made the curriculum.
Every time.
He's the genius behind it all.
Every time
and that's what they're mad at.
Right.
They're mad at because he is the genius behind it all.
Yes. right? So when I hear them talking about the Oakland curriculum and the I saw an example of the Oakland curriculum. I'm like, that's all Inosanto's kickboxing stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then the Chinatown, the Los Angeles Chinatown curriculum. I'm like, really? Really? You know, I think the only curriculum that Bruce Lee ever wrote, I'll get in trouble for this, is the curriculum for private lessons. The 10 or 12 lesson, whatever, right? You know, actually, so the second part of that question I asked you about Wing Chun, boxing and fencing, the second part was going to be, do they think that that's all there is to study when it comes to martial art? You know what I mean?
They want to. If we keep talking about they want to believe that, because in their mind, and a lot of these, let me tell you something. I want to bash this right now. I am not a concepts guy.
Neither
I
am
have trained original, and I have trained the concepts portion. And I, you know, Joe Louis once said, he goes, I'm the biggest thief in martial arts. He goes, if you show me something, I'm going to take it and it's mine.
Yeah.
And that's me completely.
Yeah.
I will take it. I will drill it. I will create through it and from it.
Yeah.
And then it's no longer yours anymore, because now it's a different kind of automobile.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys are so stuck into playing the Bruce Lee universe that they miss out on what if he would have lived past a young 32 years old. They miss out on that completely.
Yeah.
That's a good question to ask. What if? Because that would have been remarkable. And I can guarantee you money, if he was still alive today, whatever seeds he had planted through those decades of life, it wouldn't look nothing like it did in 1970.
I don't see how it could.
No.
Right? Because as an individual, right? I mean, he would have, just because this is how human beings grow. Yes, there's stuff that would have been retained, but there's no way it would have been identical. Nobody's identical, right? Decades later, 50 years later, nobody's identical. You're still the same person, but nobody's identical.
Look at him in 64, and then look at him in 73. That's not the same human being at all.
Yeah.
Doesn't move the same, didn't look the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like those early years didn't even exist anymore. That's how far he evolved from that. He wasn't fighting like this anymore. Now now he had his hands up like a boxer. I mean, it was a different Bruce Lee. So you're telling me that he wouldn't have kept evolving from 73 to 83 to you know.
Well, I've always maintained that if you're going to do right by him, if you observe that he kept evolving, if you're going to do right by him, that's your job. Your job is to keep evolving. Your job is to keep up with the times, right? That he introduced probably the idea of being ahead of the times. But
for sure.
But I think that technology and what have you, now outside martial artists have caught up with the Jeet Kune Do idealism. I would say, right? Going back to the concepts thing, right? What exactly, if somebody says, yeah, I'm a Jeet Kune Do concepts guy, what do they mean by that?
Well, I know what it originally meant. Now, when people hear it, they think it means that we just take a whole bunch of, I say we, because I am obviously a loyal Dan Inosanto follower. But they just take a whole bunch of stuff, we throw it together, we call it Jeet Kune Do concepts. That's not how Dan took Jeet Kune Do and he tried to honor what Bruce Lee asked of him. And he added concepts to it just so that people maybe wouldn't linger on the name. And let me tell you something. I'm sure through the years he's regretted it, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you think back in hindsight, well, I've already built the house, even though, even though I should have put a room, So he added the Jeet Kune Do concepts because in his mind, you can add Jeet Kune Do to anything, even living. That's what people, there's been philosophy books written about Bruce Lee. that doesn't have any fighting in them at all.
Yeah.
And that's so funny to me.
Yeah.
They think Bruce was some Zen monk humming, and Bruce was an asshole with a sharp temper and a keen eye for training and liked to work hard. That's who he was.
Yeah.
You know? He had ambition and motivation.
What do you think he was like in his quiet moments? Have you ever thought about that?
I don't know if he had me. Because I know it had to teach me way past, decade. I'm a decade older than him when he died. Now I had to learn to do that, because my quiet moments was hitting bags or sparring or mitts. That was my quiet moments. That's the only meditation I knew for so long.
Really?
And I don't think he got to that point in his life where he could just woosah. I really don't think so. Especially with all the new discoveries on some of his extracurricular activities through the years. That stuff don't let you relax. Yeah. You want to go harder and harder and harder.
I don't know. So, because what I'm thinking about is, so now James Bishop's new book, right? So now we have more of an insight into what he was pulling off his bookshelf and writing out. Why and when? See, I'm thinking that might have been the quiet moments. You see what I mean?
Maybe so. I hope that he was starting to find some Zen in his life a little bit. But people already think he has that. They try to put Bruce Lee in such a position where he's almost holy.
Yeah.
Like he had all of the answers. Jesus Christ didn't have all of the answers. Yeah. I mean, So they try to elevate him so much, and I think, why not just celebrate who he really was and what he left us?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that they would say that that's exactly what they do. The part that confounds me is this idea that that's all there is.
Yes.
That's what confounds me. I really don't get it.
A lot of instructors like to put definites on things,
but how can you?
And you can't put, because there's no definites in life, and if there's no definites in life, there's not going to be definites in any part of life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna try to embarrass you now with some of the notes that you sent me.
Okay.
Right. So listen to this, folks. It says, I jumped a train one rainy night.
I blame that on Paul Buna.
I was gonna say that. Because the part about did some shadow boxing, I was like, that's exactly what Vunak would do.
Yeah. Jeff Heath, I think my best friend Jeff Heath is watching. He was there that night and ended up calling a search party to come see me, because I had no clue. Well, I'll get to that in a second, but it was my birthday and we went to the club that I was head of security at, but I was off that night. And, I walk in there, I worked there so long, it was like I was royalty. Didn't have to, pay for drinks. Yeah. I mean, just great night. Yeah. And it was my birthday. So, of course, everybody took care of me.
Right.
Well, we're on the way home and we stop at a red light. And sure enough, man, there's this train and it looks like it's 5 miles long. And I was ready to go home and eat. And I look at my friend Jeff Heath and I go, I'm going to jump that train. And he goes, shut up, stay in the car. He's driving, of course. And I get out and I walk to it, and it's so I see the handles on every car. Right. And the first time I jumped, and this is so stupid, guys, that I don't advise it. So before the internet, yes, it was probably 15 years ago too. I was a lot younger than I am now. So yeah, don't do this, but this is my experience. So yeah, I jumped on it and it threw me. I didn't get a good grip, and it spun me off, and I hit my Jeep that he's driving home. And I look at him, I get in the car with my feelings hurt. And he'll tell you to this day, he goes, I shouldn't have said anything. He goes, but he looked at me, he goes, how did that work out for you, champ? And I said, oh, okay. So I got out again and I did it. Boom. Yeah. And it just boom. And I climbed to the top of the car and I laid down first for a while. Let me tell you, it was one of the most spiritual moments. Seeing that stars and the moonlight on top of this, something about it just was very
So you have had quiet moments.
oh yeah. So then I say, well, I got to get up and move, because I remember Vunok saying in one of his videos, he said, you got to get comfortable sometimes getting low, you know, and he goes, you got to act like you're on top of a train, training. And I remember him saying that, and I'm like, well, I got to get up and do some shadow boxing at least. So I got up, and it wasn't going that fast at the moment, thank God. And I shadow boxed underneath the moonlight for about 20 minutes, and then I laid back down and just rode it out. 15 miles later, out of town, it stopped. And I didn't have my phone. I left my phone in the Jeep. So they had already sent a search party, 3 cars of people come look at me, right? And it started pouring down rain.
Okay.
But so they found me on the road walking. I didn't even know where I was.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I learned a lot from that experience.
Okay.
I did.
All right. Why does Brittany wrap you in bubble wrap on February 9th?
Yeah. 2 years ago, I'm still in Tennessee. No, hell, 4 years ago now. Wow. 4 years ago, February 9th, 2018. Yeah, 2018. So we're going to work, and I just got this intuition, and I get this a lot. I've always had this. My grandmother had it to like a crazy, your psychic level, but I think I inherited some of that from her. But I looked at Brittany, I go, I don't know if I want to go to work tonight. I said, I have a bad feeling that something's going to happen. And she goes, well, call them. I mean, I was head of security. I could have not shown up. Right. But we only had like 2 people show up, and I worked at a big club. So I'm like, no, I told them that I was going to help. So let me just suck it up and do it. So I was going in, and I turned, and I had a little sports car, a little Mercedes SL, little sports car at the time. And I turned, a 16-year-old girl who was playing on the radio hit me 45 miles an hour, spun my little car. Well, it broke my ankle and foot. Just the floorboard of the car came on it and broke my ankle and foot. I get out the car and I walk. I remember thinking, because I work kind of like, I guess the term would be combat boots, you know, when I work security. Thank God, because those things were tight. The doctor told me, they said if you wouldn't have had those on, it would have shattered everything in your. So I remember getting out the car, and I remember seeing her right before she hit. I kind of slowed down time, and she goes, you know, she was 16, just started driving, and so I remember I got to go check on her was the first thought. Now her airbag, she hit face O, so she was good. Her airbag went off, and she hit me and spun me. So I remember walking across the road to get her out of a car to check on her, and my foot wasn't working. I'm like, well, that's weird, you know. So fast forward 20 to now, this year, February 9th, I get run over by a red Jeep, same ankle, breaks, takes half the foot off. I almost lose my foot twice.
Oh man. So
February 9th, I'm not allowed to leave the house. Okay. That's crazy though. That's really crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's that's interesting.
That's insane.
I still think though, because you talked about my suspicion. I was gonna save this until the very end, but we'll see where we go with it. My suspicion is that there's not only, and you won't be embarrassed when I use the adjective, but my suspicion, my suspicion is that there's not only a sweet side to you, but there is a spiritual side to you. And I'm wondering who gets to see those Billy Browns. Do you have kids?
I'm actually a grandfather. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a grandfather with another grandkid on the way. Now, sadly, they're in Louisiana, and I haven't even met the grandkids yet, but I love them very much. And so.
But do you have nephews and nieces as well?
Yes. But I don't get to see them. I moved away, man. From, you know, I see them once, twice a year.
Right.
You know,
because for some reason,
think my students, I want to give my students a well-rounded version of me. I really do.
Yeah.
Of course, my wife sees every side, the good and the bad. But I never wanted my students just to come in and say badass Billy Brown. I want them to know I care because I do care.
Mm-hmm.
My 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 biggest pleasure in life is teaching, and it's seeing them grow in some way, man. And if the and I guess if there's a sweet side to me, it's into that teaching. And at the same time, I do want to make them badasses.
So tell me why this would never have happened to you. I want to say it was 1988, 89 or something. And Paula Inosano told me that there were guys who taught at the Inosano Academy who were saying they had run out of material to teach. Tell me why that would never have happened to you.
Well, if you're running out of material to teach, you're not building legacies, because the way you build legacies is by creating.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just teaching from a book, and when that book's done, give them a diploma, say bye, go on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're teaching from your life's book that is about constantly adding new chapters, you'll never run out of material.
Right.
And that goes back to working on us as instructors, man. Sometimes we neglect ourselves. We really do. You know that. I mean, I can guarantee you've been there.
Yeah.
We neglect ourselves sometimes because we're just teaching so much,
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big part to make you a good teacher and a good instructor is for you to constantly try to spark growth in yourself also, and not just and only the student.
One of the reasons why I embraced not just the Muay Thai, but also the fitness kickboxing when that became a phenomenon was that's how I tricked myself into working out.
Oh, that's cool.
Because you especially in Muay Thai, it's easy in Kali, right, to have some tricks and show them the tricks, and they think that you can do the thing.
Yes. And they think that they know Kali now.
But in Thai boxing, you can't fake it.
No.
In Taekwondo,
grappling, you can't fake it in grappling. You can't fake it when you put the gloves on and just go. So I definitely respect that area of those kind of training methods too. When and that back to the traditional arts, they would push us so hard. Like we would beg to just sit in it. We call it a squat stretch. I don't know what you may call it, but just when your feet are flat, you squat down, you put your forearms on your knees, and you just kind of breathe. We would fall asleep in those positions because that would be our break. Everybody squat stretch down, yes sir.
Yeah.
Back up, 100 side kicks. Let's go.
I always found it funny when I would hear people talking down about traditional martial arts, right? Because I had friends growing up in Barbados. I had friends in Shotokan, and I got from the magazines. I learned about the. Have you ever heard? I'm sure you know about it. The Shotokan summer training, where they would hold the horse stance until you pass out.
Oh yeah,
right,
man. Yeah.
So I mean. Just that alone, knowing that in traditional Japanese karate, there are people who do that, right?
Korean too. Japanese and Korean are a lot of those threads run. Now they wouldn't like you saying that. The Japanese are going to talk crap about the Koreans, and the Koreans are going to talk crap about the Japanese. But those arts have very, very common bloodlines a little bit in some areas.
Okay, so Tim Red Tiger posited this question the other day. Is there only one martial art?
I think on a universal level, the human body is motion.
Right.
So if you look at it as it's all body motion.
Right.
So almost like the Kamuk Liuk way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's all body motion. If you look at it like that, then yes. It's all but because of cultures, because of family bloodlines, because of war, some of the interpretations look different through the years because of the environment they had to adapt to.
But Bruce Lee, we can credit him with saying that styles divide men, and that under under the heavenly skies there's only one family, and what have you. So
Yeah.
how does somebody who calls him or herself a true Bruce Lee devotee ignore that?
I know what
How did they do
exactly. Because it's totally embarrassing if you think about it, because if styles divide man, how are we so divided within one system?
that?
That's very, that's sad.
Yeah, I think that's
We should be having gatherings everywhere. There's people like you that are doing it. You're people like you out there trying to unite people, but the thing is, everybody is so not united that they just butt heads when they come in. They butt heads when they come in. They butt heads instead of uniting.
well. I mean, I've said this to people before. We will never unify. We will never have one Jeet Kune Do. That train, that bus is left, right? But we can get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from, right? And then the other guy says, oh, I see where you're coming from. And there's no need to be like, no. Where I'm coming from is the right way. Where you're coming from is the wrong way. What is that? What is that?
As we moved to Florida, my seminar output has been, obviously I was out for almost a full year with the foot, but I do a lot of seminars here now. And all of these people who invite me are from totally different lineages than me, but they welcome me into their arms because I teach Filipino martial arts and I do it at their events. And none of us look the same, but afterwards we all share food together and conversation. The Jeet Kune Do world can't do that.
See, look, I'm going to tell you something. I think that media in this country do a really good job of selling people that there's a lot of separation when there really isn't.
That's right. But they want, they try to create that separation.
Yeah, right. So I suspect that JKD might be the same. Right. And we just have a few vociferous individuals, right?
That gaslight.
Yeah. And who are real good at it because you know who are my
way better than Jeet Kune Do. Way better at it than doing their Jeet Kune Do.
You know who are my favorites? The guys that take a snippet of JKD truth and they'll turn that into a 20-minute video.
Like the Bible, man. Like the Bible. They take one scripture that fits their current needs, and they tell you that scripture over and over, but they don't, if they read the first one and the one afterwards, it changes the whole point.
Yeah. Right? So I experiment with the clickbait titling of stuff, right? So on Wednesday, but see, this is why you got to be careful what you wish for. So on Wednesday, I put a headline that said Jeet Kune Do versus MMA versus Muay Thai, right? And people start answering the question as if I was saying, oh, can Jeet Kune Do beat Muay Thai? Which I did that
like arts win fights.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like art is you're gonna see a little silhouette of Bruce Lee. And fight each other because it's
so
arts don't fight, man.
So I was
like I said before, real quick, some of the most dangerous people I know haven't never really formally trained at all. But I have seen them wreak havoc on
Did you ever hear about the guy Bert Pohl? Do you know that name?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was not a trained martial artist. That was the guy who had seen the world of violence. That was the guy who had seen stuff and could pull stuff off. And
it's so funny how many people followed him per se, because you know why? He was a man of action.
Right.
That's the biggest thing you asked me earlier. What's lacking in the Jeet Kune Do or what people are missing?
Yeah.
It's just shut up and do it.
Yeah.
And let that talk for you. Put your work out there. And let me tell you something. At the beginning, when you first put it out there, you may get crapped on a lot, but that's good for you too.
Mm-hmm.
good to have that side of it and not just somebody praising you constantly.
Right.
You know,
Well, yeah.
because then you have to look. It forces you to look inward a little bit. And if you look inward and you go, well, there's nothing wrong with what I put out. I think whatever this is that I put out just now, it's fine. 1,000 people are telling me it's awesome, and this 1 or 2 people are telling me, should I adjust or should I just forget about them and move forward?
Yeah.
You know.
I
But also, you may see a fault that
Right.
somebody points out that you wasn't
Right.
seeing,
Yes.
and that's growth, and that's
Yes.
good too.
Yes. I think that you should always self-examine and
Oh.
and change what needs to be, because there's probably still there's always something that you can work on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? There's always something. I mean,
That's another reason why I love the cross train so much, man. It's not because I don't love Jeet Kune Do. I love it. I love it with all my heart. I wouldn't have done it as long as I have. You know, I think it's an art that fits me. It's funny. I had this one guy from China. He messaged me and he loves my work. He follows me. He goes, but I'm definitely not going to do a Chinese accent because that's probably not PC anymore. But in the question, he goes, but Jeet Kune Do is for little people, not big people. He goes, I love your work, but you're too big to do this art.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But for me, Jeet Kune Do fits me very well because of my injuries, because of the footwork. Sometimes the Kali footwork hurts me a little.
Okay.
That's why in my Magla Hook Kali video series, I didn't linger on footwork too much because I was coming off of another leg injury at the time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I couldn't. I knew I added a few of the crucial ones I think that you should work on, but I didn't spend like some FMA instructors. They'll put two hours on footwork drills.
Yeah. Hey, before I forget, tell people where they can go find that stuff that you've been talking about.
Oh, the videos?
Yeah, your stuff.
Yeah, Progressive Productions, www.proactionvideos.com. We started that in 2014. We were one of the first really to do strictly no DVD, nothing, strictly you pay, you watch. Right there. We really were. A lot of people followed suit after that. But we were one of the first. So yeah, you watch everything that day, guys. I have a lot of topics from fight stoppers to the Filipino martial arts, dirty boxing, grappling for the street, Jeet Kune Do video, a lot of stuff. Check it out, guys, if you haven't.
Tell them again,
proactionvideos.com.
Right, cool.
Pro Action.
All right, let's wind this down. What do you read?
Lately, you know what I've been reading? Old martial art books. Because I got my hands on some of the ones I got a huge library of books and they're all in storage right now since we moved. I probably got 200 books. And you'll see everything in there from Zig Ziglar to Brian Tracy to oh yeah, I was a huge Brian Tracy guy. I saw Zig Ziglar probably 5 times live.
No way.
You know, and he was great. And you know, those early years, that was really good for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure now people would say all that stuff's outdated per se, but in those early years, the little business mind that I developed through the years came from guys like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I just got my hand on some of Heel Cho's original books that are now no longer in print.
Oh my God!
So lately, I've been kind of because I had all of those back in the 90s. Yeah. I had all of those, but I had a school that caught on fire. My whole office.
Oh, I remember. Right.
All of my diplomas, my books, my pictures with Dan and all these. I thank God I have a few of those saved. But I had a great picture with me and Joe Louis. Certificates, everything. Yeah. Boom. Probably 150 VHS tapes.
Wow.
No joke.
Wow.
It all went up in flames. So I lost all that stuff. And so recently, one of Grandmaster Heel Cho's right-hand man sent me some of those original books, and I've been kind of delving back into them.
I know I have. I can't remember the title of it, but it's about this big, and it's got like an orange cover or something, right? But it's a huge. It's not a small size. It's a huge book. I know I have that one, right?
What with who? Heel
Yeah,
Joe?
yeah,
Is he doing the split the jump
yeah,
kick on the front
on
of
the
it?
cover, yeah.
Man of Contrast. That's a great book.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
right?
Man of Contrast.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
all right.
But I also lost. Sadly, I had all of Dan's books.
Yeah.
They got burned up, and now you can't. I saw one on eBay the other day, $800.
Yeah,
It's
you got to keep your eyes open though, because one of my Facebook colleagues, Norman Taylor said the other day he found the Art and Philosophy book, which is the one that's hardest to find. He found it for $70. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
so you got to keep you got to keep looking because you never know.
Yes,
Yeah, you never know. So okay.
You know what I do like to do real quick to go back on reading? My eyes are getting very bad. So I don't read much, and I got these reading glasses, and my wife keeps wanting me to go get real glasses. Are you giving me my reading? Yeah. Here we go, world. You ready for this, YouTube? So yeah. So you never seen that before, have you? So I don't read as much as I love documentaries, man.
Okay.
I mean, if you look on my smart TV, I have saved of the upcoming, and she's not a really big fan, so I have to I have to wait till maybe she goes to sleep and I'll watch one or something.
Yeah. Man, if I had your insomnia, I could spend a lot more time on documentaries and what have you. You know, I have this fascination. I don't know why. I mean, I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in Barbados. Why do I have a fascination with World War II documentaries?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Right?
I had a great teacher who was there, my grandfather, and he got me. I'm fascinated with him too, is why I'm saying that, because he told me so much, and he would take out his old World War II book and just teach me lessons every week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell me about the spots that he was at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that too, man. Any documentary that I mean, crime and violence documentaries, to be honest with you, I watch some of those for education purposes.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really watch violence much anymore because I kind of can't. I don't deal with it well anymore.
I hear you.
To be honest with
hear
you, I got out of I got an offer again yesterday to work to run security for a club here in Orlando. And Brittany, my wife, saw it first. She just said no. But I'm just so far out of that world now, and I lived it for so long.
Yeah.
I got my feet wet. I got the T-shirt to prove it, but I can't do it anymore. You know.
Okay.
So I don't even watch MMA. I watch boxing still.
Right. Yeah.
I love boxing because I think it's a little more scientific sometimes than an MMA fight.
You know what I saw earlier today on boxing? It's Floyd Mayweather, and he's telling people about how this is building the pads, right? How it's become popular, and he's actually telling people don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm glad to see that, because it's the dumbest thing, isn't it?
Isn't that horrible? It's like somebody's gonna be face butting your foot.
Yeah.
You know?
Right? And I see stuff like that, and I go, how many people are aware that it's probably the JKD clan that introduced the Focus Smith into martial art,
For sure.
Right?
For sure. Yeah.
I
mean, I'm sure there was a couple others doing it, but not to the point where,
Well, I mean, remember, I know you've heard the story. Inosano used to have to travel with a duffel bag of Focus Smiths in the early days of seminars, because people
or using his slippers,
right? Yeah, because people, not enough schools had those, and then the kick shield that he borrowed from football, and then designed for INI
running
and what have you.
Training with running shoes. But look, nobody talks about all that good stuff with him. Those original guys, they don't want to tell you all that.
No.
No. They just want you to, believe that he didn't, muddy down Jeet Kune Do, and it's funny, man.
Anyhow.
It's funny.
All right. Well, listen. Thanks again for a wonderful conversation, man.
We're coming to see you next year, so get ready. We'll make a weekend of it.
All
right.
Hey,
look, if you do set something up with a Jeet Kune Do winter or any kind of camp or anything, I'm there, buddy.
All right. Yeah,
All right.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so I haven't asked any dialogue partner this in a long time. Who's somebody that that I should bring or bring back onto the show that you can think
No,
of?
I always love seeing the kind of, you know, Rick Faze and Eric. I always love seeing those
Yeah.
kind of well-known
Hey,
names, you know.
talking
But,
about Eric.
uh-huh.
Did you somebody put up a post of him doing the Wing Chun trapping? Did you see those?
Oh,
Right?
loving it. Yeah, he's been posting a lot of little quick teaching
Oh yeah?
snippets of stuff other than MMA.
Okay.
Because I think he's in the same. I mean, he's old. Eric's probably a decade older than me, but he's getting to the same position where all that other stuff is fun to do and still maintain, and it's easier on your body, and
Yeah.
you know.
Well, tell me what you make of this, because I saw the Wing Chun trapping, right? Okay, it's Eric Paulson. Everybody knows this is the guy who can. This is the guy who can do it, right? But I saw him doing that, and I go, you know what? I wish he would just freelance it, right? Rather than trying to stick to the curriculum, right? But can you imagine?
And he does a little bit. He was adding the gunting and the gunting to the thing. Yeah, he did. He started doing it a little bit.
Because you know,
you got to understand about Eric, what you know. I mean, you know him better than I do. But he's so cats everywhere. He's so technical and everything is so curriculum.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? He's like one of my instructors, Ron Goins. That's how Ron is.
Yeah.
Ron is so analytical. I tell you who else is like that too is Hawk Hakeem. He's got names for everything, and he's got a format for everything that he could install it in you, but then break away and come at it at a different angle. I think good instructors have that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you if you're gonna teach, I remember Cass Magda telling me this one. It was how in Jeet Kune Do the words have different meanings. So the word style meant your individual way of doing what you do. That's your style.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then method was the method would be the stuff that you used in your own development, and system was your compilation of methods for teaching. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. If you don't have a system for teaching, how is it going to work?
And not just that, you have to have in the JKD world, this is probably, frowned upon for saying, but you have to have a set curriculum. But then you have to have the ability, once the student has that set curriculum, to teach the student to come at it from different angles and with different eyes now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you again, my friend. This has been such a pleasure.
It's been
awesome. Okay. All right. You take care. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again, man.
All right. Awesome. Bye-bye, guys.
I should have done an introduction. I didn't. So let me do a outroduction. That was episode 247 with Billy Brown, right? proactionvideos.com, I think it was. I'll check it out, and I'll put a link in the final edit video. All right. Okay. So where are we? All right. At paypal.me/unifiedma Miami, the Jeet Kune Do Journey Volume 1 still available, the raw but edited version. paypal.me/unifiedma Miami. Over at jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link. That's where you can see stuff like this. The 4 tenets of Jeet Kune Do t-shirt, long sleeve, short sleeve, sweatshirt, hoodie, coffee mug, all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. Coming up next, we're going international again next Friday with Edmarcio Rodriguez, who is down in Fortaleza, Brazil. And this is somebody that Paul Bax introduced me to him. So you guys will once again get to know somebody at the same time that I'm getting to know him. So that's next Friday. I don't think we're on the same time zone, but 6 p.m., if I remember correctly, is a good time for him. So that'd be next Friday. Before then, next Wednesday, see you for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. So until the next episode, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys have a great weekend. Stay safe. Talk soon.